This week, as I was reviewing various commentaries and preparing these readings for tonight, most were talking about John and the various scripture passages from Isaiah that he was citing. Many were talking about the second half of the reading, but only one mentioned a sentence that comes at the very end of Jesus' description to the disciples of John of what he is doing. Yes, go tell John what you've seen and heard. The blind see, lame walk, lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised to life. All magnificent demonstrations of the power of God. The good news is proclaimed to the poor. And then this odd phrase, happy is the one who does not lose faith in me. If somebody is seeing the very power of God alive in a person, if the blind are seeing, the deaf are hearing, the lame are jumping, why would Jesus reference a loss of faith? It's interesting in all the various translations of Scripture. This is probably one of the ones that is translated most differently across them. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me. Blessed is the one who is not offended by me. Blessed whoever shall find no occasion of stumbling. Whoever does not lose his faith in me is indeed blessed. Blessed is he that shall not be scandalized in me. And perhaps one that best captures what Jesus is saying, even though it is not close to a literal translation. God will bless everyone who does not reject me because of what I do. We have to read this sentence that is being translated so differently in reference to all of those things, all of those saving activities, all of those magnificent displays of the power of God that Jesus was just talking about. 29 times across the New Testament, in its various forms, noun and verb. Scandalon, the noun, to scandalize, is used, and it seems to mean a tripstick or stumbling block. A scandal is that which causes someone to fall, and thus, in its other kinds of meanings, fall away from me, to lose faith. So all of these translations are trying to hit around the same subject. Happy is the one who does not lose faith in me. So what could possibly be that which Jesus is speaking about? Blind people are seeing. Deaf people are hearing. Those who cannot walk are walking. Those who are dead have come back to life. What could be the stumbling block? The stumbling block, I think, goes back to the very first question John sends his disciples to ask. Are you the one who is to come? We know who Matthew thinks Jesus is. He references him in the first sentence as the Christ, as the Messiah. He is the one who is to come. And we can think of John's question as either some sort of setup question that doesn't really mean anything, or John is asking, are you the Messiah? I know who I think the Messiah is. John has already talked about it. In last week's gospel, we heard about the Messiah coming with his winnowing fan to separate the chaff from the wheat and to burn the chaff in fire. We know that however many religious groups existed in Israel were different expectations for the Messiah, but a predominant one was one that saw the Messiah coming as the messianic king from the house of David, the warrior king who was going to restore Israel to the fullness of its political and territorial glory. And Jesus is healing the sick. Jesus is bringing sight to the blind. Jesus seems to have no interest, concern, or expectation that he would be leading an army, except for maybe an army of angels. Jesus knows that the manifestation of the power of God that he comes with will disappoint many and may be a scandal, a stumbling block, a reason for them to lose faith. There were many predictions of what a Messiah would look like across the Old Testament. Our first reading today from Isaiah gives us one of them. It's the one Jesus takes up, at least in part, in what we hear today. The challenge for us is to open our hearts to what we hear. Challenge for us is to see in the person we've just heard about that manifestation of who God is. One of the words we use about God is that he's ineffable. He's unable to be described. We know that everything we say about God and God's fullness is incomplete and thus wrong, but it's the best we can do. We can't approach any real and meaningful understanding of who God is except for Jesus. Because of his ineffableness, because of the distance between us, God came as one like us. And that we know that in seeing Jesus, we begin to see who God is. We know that in entering into the baptism of Jesus, we become who Jesus is, at least in part, as members of his body. We know that in our world, there are still people who long to see, both physically and intellectually and emotionally. We know that those who have turned their ears off to the needs of others, we know there is brokenness in our midst and around our world. And as members of that body, we are called to be peace on earth, justice for others, healing and hope for the world, just as we long for the fullness of it to come. So James's words today in our second reading are words for us. We must be patient, but not patience without activity, not patience without hope, not patience without seeing the very person of Jesus Christ. And knowing and seeing Christ, we see a pretty good understanding of who God is. We know that in being part of Christ, we see a pretty good representation of who we're called to be. And so today, on this Gaudete Sunday, on this Sunday in which we call to ourselves rejoice, let us see in this person of Jesus Christ the healing power of God. Let us ask God to fill us with that power so that we too may be healed. Let us ask God for the strength and the wisdom and the vision to see the needs in our family, to see the needs in our community and in our world, and strive to be the fullness of his healing and hope, just as we wait for his fullness in his coming in glory.